black sky.
Greetings. My name is Dmytro Antoniuk. I am from Kiev, Ukraine, and I am part of Black Sky team. And this is our weekly digest, the digest of the materials that we collected, gathered, done, written within the past week. We will start with one from Olga Semashko, which is called No More Full Tanks, a new wave of the fuel crisis in Russia. Uh, Olga looks at the return of fuel shortages in Russia. At least 18 regions are reporting problems, with some gas stations introducing limits on how much fuel people can buy. Even Moscow and the Moscow region are affected, while officials continue to say that the situation is under control. The main reason for the shortage is a drop in oil refining after Ukrainian strikes on Russian refineries. At least 26 refineries have been attacked since the beginning of the year, and current gasoline production covers only about 65% of normal demand. Several refineries have stopped working completely, making it harder to supply the domestic market. To deal with the problem, Russia is turning to other countries for help. Belarus has sharply increased fuel exports to Russia, while Kazakhstan, India, and Morocco have also supplied gasoline. Uh, Olga shows how repeated attacks on Russia's energy infrastructure are creating growing pressure on the country's fuel market and forcing Moscow to look abroad for supplies. The next one is again by Olga Semashko. No miracle occurred. Yabloko's federal list has not been reinstated in the elections. Yabloko, the only opposition party in Russia, Yabloko's attempt to return to the State Duma elections has failed. On the 17th of August, the Supreme Court upheld the decision to remove the party's federal list, citing alleged foreign funding, social media activity, and copyright violations. The party had prepared more than 200 pages of evidence about similar violations by other parties, but the court rejected its appeal. The case comes amid growing pressure on Yabloko and its supporters. More than 70 people were detained outside the Supreme Court while trying to support the party. On the same day, Yabloko deputy chairman Lev Schlossberg was sentenced to 11 years and 1 month in prison over charges linked to the statements about the war. Meanwhile, the use of copyright claims to remove political candidates is spreading. Communist candidate Mikhail Matveyev was recently disqualified in Samara over campaign materials that allegedly used copyright photographs and Microsoft fonts without a license. The controversy has now pushed lawmakers to propose new rules limiting the use of such complaints against election candidates. Vasily Lnitsky has written the next article, how Uzhhorod stood up to the Kremlin coup 35 years ago. 35 years ago, Uzhhorod became one of the first Ukrainian cities to openly oppose the Moscow coup. On the 19th of August 1991, while most local councils were waiting to see how events would develop, the Uzhhorod City Council held an emergency session and condemned the actions of the Soviet State Committee for the State of Emergency. The resolution was supported by 59 out of the 67 councillors present. Vasil recalls the atmosphere of the final years of the Soviet Union and the growing pressure for political change. Several former councillors describe how they gathered at the city council after hearing about the coup and decided to take a stand. A particularly important moment came when Colonel Soinov, commander of the local military garrison, promised not to send troops onto the streets of Uzhhorod. Looking back, the participants see the decision as an important early step towards Ukrainian independence. Their memories are also connect the events of 1991 with Russia's current war against Ukraine, noting uh, that some of the people who defended Ukraine's independence then are now fighting for it on the front line. The story shows how local courage and decisive action helped shape the country's path away from the Soviet Union. Another article by Volga Simashka, again about Yabloko party. Yabloko strikes back. So it's again about the decision of Supreme Court to um, not to let Yabloko into the so-called elections in Russia. After being removed from the State Duma election, Yabloko decided to turn the Supreme Court's own reasoning against the other parties. The party reviewed their campaign materials, social media activity, and funding using the same criteria that were applied to Yabloko, finding potential violations that filled more than 200 pages. Yabloko argues that if these standards are applied consistently, other major parties could face similar problems. Its research found more than 1 billion rubles in funding from companies with foreign links, while copyright issues are potentially unpaid political advertising were also identified across the campaigns. United Russia or Единая Россия pro-Kremlin party alone was linked to 200,000, 33,800 potentially unpaid publications. Yabloko chairman Nikolai Rybakov sent the findings to the Central Election Commission and called for equal treatment of all election participants. Rather than asking to remove its rivals, he demanded that the authorities either keep Yabloko's list registered or apply the same standards to everyone, warning that the case could set a dangerous precedent for Russia's electoral system. We already know that that didn't work. Yulia Derdyuk is the author of the next material, which is called Russian Starlink. Russia's space program is expanding. Russia is moving ahead with its own satellite internet system known as the Rassvet program. In July, the company Bureau 1440 launched a second batch of 16 Rassvet 3 satellites, bringing the total number in orbit to around 30. The system is intended to provide internet coverage across Russia and is being developed as a rival to Starlink. There are still major technical challenges, though. The first satellites launched in March failed to reach their planned operational altitude of 800 kilometers, and one later burned up in the atmosphere. Russia's system will also need hundreds or even more than 1,000 satellites for reliable coverage, depending on the final orbital design. Despite these difficulties, the program is moving forward. The second batch has already begun climbing towards its target orbit, and limited communication may be possible even with the current number of satellites. Yulia suggests that Russia is gradually solving the technical problem and could accelerate the deployment of its own satellite communications network in the coming years. And to conclude this week's digest, we have another article by Olga Semashko and Arthur Jacques. The big question of the autumn: will Putin announce a mobilization? The possibility of a new mobilization is becoming one of the main questions surrounding Russia's autumn political landscape. Ukrainian and Western officials point to signs that the Kremlin may need more troops, while Russian authorities continue to deny that another mobilization is being prepared. This article examines whether Russia's contract recruitment system can keep pace with military losses and highlights several signs of preparation for a new mobilization, including changes to military registration and a growing demand for mobilization specialists. At the same time, more Russians are searching for ways to leave the country, suggesting rising anxiety. Um, the key question is whether Putin will choose to announce mobilization after the State Duma elections. A new call up could provide the army with additional manpower, but it could also bring serious political and economic costs, including greater public discontent, another wave of immigration, and deeper labor shortages. So that was it for this week's digest. Feel free at any time to visit our site blacksky.info to read it in full. My name is Dmytro Antoniuk. I am part of Black Sky team, and I am from Kiev, Ukraine. Stay tuned. Bye bye.